Hi, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I want to talk about opening and running a successful water refilling station business in the Philippines, specifically out in the province. So everything I talk about today will be related to issues that you'll discover in the province versus a metropolitan area such as Manila or another big city. This may be a long video, so I will probably try to break it up into chapters. If you wish, you can go ahead and look in the description. I will have the chapters outlined with links, and you can jump to the areas that are relevant to what you're trying to find in today's content. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Please leave any comments or feedbacks or questions below. So today I want to talk about quickly some of the key areas that I've learned from my experience from opening a water refilling station in the Philippines that will save you time and money. It will help you to succeed. I'm going to say a few statements that reflect basically on my experience. This isn't the blanket statement for everyone, but I'm pretty sure from what I've seen from other people that are open businesses that if you follow my advice, you will be a lot more successful and your chance of failing will dramatically decrease. The first thing I want to talk about is the commercial property you're going to put your water filling station in. I highly recommend that you own the property yourself and that you do not rent. The main reason I'm saying this is because renting property not only decreases your profits, it will greatly reduce your ability to modify, change, and have security for long term at that location. The other thing I want to stress is the size of your water shop. At first, we misjudged how well our water business would do, and we had to cannibalize space that we had planned for a different business to double the size of our water filling station. I recommend 100 square meters at a minimum, more if you have a big space, and I'll explain why later in the video. The location should be in an area that has a lot of population, right? So the busiest part of your town. The reason for this is it's your base and you have to deliver from this base to the primary delivery customers, right? Your customers are going to be mostly home delivery based. So you don't want to be on the edge of this circle. You want to be kind of in the middle of the circle of your delivery area. Does it have to be on the main road? It doesn't, but it should be for visibility. And it will help you with some walk-in traffic as well. But it doesn't have to be. If you can find a cheaper spot one road back, that's fine as well, because most of your customers are going to be delivery customers. So to highlight my point, what you really need to make sure you're doing is you own the building that you put your water business in. It's a commercially zoned building, and that you right size it for not just the micro business you think it might be, but for a successful medium-sized business. The reason I want to suggest 100 square meters at a minimum is because things we didn't take in consideration was how big the frontage of the shop would look. Any additional equipment we might want to add to that later, such as an ice machine or a second washing station. Storage of all of your bottles and equipment that are not in the shop, but you need a spot to store 500 to 1,000 bottles. It surprisingly takes up a lot of room. And importantly as well, a spot to park your delivery vehicles. If you have a truck or tricycles, you want to be able to keep those on site and secure. So 100 square meters again, with parking for at minimum a tricycle is almost mandatory. Now, on to the next topic I want to discuss, and the other key reason why you may fail, or will most likely fail with the water refilling station business, is the source of your water. In the Philippines, where droughts are fairly common, and in metro areas, you're stuck relying on a water provider, whether it's Manila Water or one of the other providers that provide water for you. You can easily Google and you'll constantly see where water is cut off for a day, our supply is 2 days missing, or even the supply is there but it's such low volume you don't have enough to produce 10,000 gallons a day of raw source water. And if you can't do that, you're not going to be able to support 500 customers or more. So making sure that you have a solid source of your own water is key. I highly recommend on the commercial land that you own, before you open your water business, you take the time and expense and have a deep well put in. And when I mean deep, I mean 10 pipes, so 200 feet deep. Even if you hit water 2 or 3 times, keep going until you can get that really good water that's going to always be there. This upfront cost may seem like a lot, but in reality it's not that much. But what that gives you is reliable, free water for your business. And I also find that the water coming from the deep well is actually pretty decent quality. So when you're running it through your system, it's less abuse on all your systems, and your end product is going to be almost perfect depending on the rest of your equipment. So to reiterate, you will probably fail if you have to pay for and depend on outside sources for your raw water. Purified or mineral water through the equipment we'll talk about in a second does have a byproduct, wastewater as it's called, which basically means it doesn't meet the specifications for purified. However, it's still good water. And you're going to get about a 60% waste to 40% product just by the nature of the equipment you're running in, and it's fairly standard. So that's a lot of water that you're pulling up from the ground or from whatever source you have that you can reuse. And I highly recommend that you design your water filling stations to have a switch that will allow it to use this water and wash your bottles with it. Now, you need to make sure that your final rinse of the inside of the bottle is with your purified product or your mineral product, just to make sure that you don't have any non-clean water in there. But by reusing the wastewater from the production of your purified water, you will be able to wash almost all of the bottles that you need to without having to look for a secondary water source. In our particular case, we do have a second well. It's not a deep well, but it's the second well for the building. And this well is used primarily for the sinks, the CRs, the bathrooms, for the cleaning of the garage area, the outside. You know, it's a general building water supply. And in my configuration, I have a switch where I can switch between the wastewater for washing or the other well as a source for washing. This is something that will greatly help you with your water supply situation, and it's just the right thing to do if you can reuse the water one more time. Now, as I just mentioned, the equipment will have a wastage of approximately 60 to 40% of wastewater to your end product. This does depend heavily on the equipment that you use. I highly recommend that you don't just look at these ads that say you can get a water station up and running for 125,000, 250,000, or even 350,000 pesos. Because the reality is you're not getting the right equipment you're going to need for anything more than a short supply of water. That being said, any system that you do build out and equipment that you get, I highly recommend that you should be able to get between 5 to 6 gallons per minute steady through the life cycle process from raw water all the way to product. And you're going to get this by adding some higher end equipment, some extra RO processing filters, and some stronger pumps. So any of these small packages you see are probably not going to last you if your business is growing at any kind of speed. So what I recommend is shop around, talk to several suppliers, several vendors, several installers, and try to gauge with your budget, and we'll talk about cost at the end of the video, but try to gauge what you need to install to be able to generate at least 5 gallons per minute of product. So now that you've determined that you have the right set of equipment picked out for your needs, you need to take into consideration the maintenance of this equipment. It's going to be running a lot, hopefully, if you're producing a lot of product, and it's going to require some downtime for the normal standard maintenance that you must perform in order to continuously produce a viable potable drinking water. Things that you need to consider is all the different filter changes, all the different RO changes, and you also need to figure out your backwashing of your pre-filters gravel, charcoal, and other things in that nature. So when it comes to this kind of equipment, you know, it's going to cost you a lot more than you imagine, and that's just for the actual processing equipment. You're going to need small things like heat guns, water carriers, washing table stands, environmentally safe soaps. You're going to need tanks. Now, I highly recommend that you have at a minimum 2,000 liter tanks, one for your raw product and one for your actual end result product for storage. And when you see these packages, they almost always give you a lot smaller tank that you're constantly refilling and waiting to fill and empty. So make sure you have the larger tank, so when you start in the morning, you have a full tank of product and you have a full tank of source material to get you going. This ties back into the how big of your shop size do you need. You need to have room to have these tanks and pumps and equipment. So keep that into consideration, that the small tanks will not last you long as you grow. And the size needed for the larger tank is going to be probably 25 square meters for both tanks and the associated equipment with it. You want to have on hand spare parts. You want to have circuit breakers, switches, an extra pump if you have that capability, because they sometimes do go out as well. But you definitely want to be able to change and swap things as they break and not have your business interrupted for more than the time it takes to do this maintenance. We particularly chose to take Sundays off. This is for both practical reasons and business reasons. The practical reason is all this maintenance I mentioned, it takes time. So you can't do this during the course of your regular business day, and we didn't want to do it at night. So we take Sunday afternoon while we're eating breakfast or we're doing something casual around the site. We'll then use this time to run through all the processes of backwashing and checking and or changing the filters as needed. Now, as you recall in the beginning of the video, I talked about the importance of putting your business in a commercial site. And the reason for that is it's going to be a lot easier for you to obtain all your permits and certificates to operate your business. A DTI registration of your business name, you're going to have fire and health clearances and certificates. If you have a deep well, you need to have that inspected. So you need to have all this stuff, and you need to consider it a business. You need to be legal, you need to have BIR registration. I highly recommend getting an accountant. They can take care of all your taxing and your employee needs when it comes to their benefits, field health, social security, PABI big things that we offer to our employees as a benefit. So having an accounting firm take care of this will keep you in check. They'll remind you when your permits need to be renewed. They'll do automatic payments from your business bank account to the various entities that require it, and they'll take care of your tax things. When you do register with BIR, make sure that you're registering it as a company and you get your tax books from them as part of the process, and that you're getting what's called an OR, an original receipt set of booklets. And you have to renew these every year or every 2 years. But you want an OR, you don't want an acknowledgement, or you want it to be an OR, because if you're like us and your business grows and you start to handle a lot of the municipalities, you're servicing the jails, the hospitals, the schools, the prisons, the mayor's office, and a lot of things that are LGU-based entity, local government unit, they're going to require an OR. They want the original receipt. They're going to want to check all your paperwork, and you got to be legit. The good thing about this is, if your business is doing so well that like we have, and we picked up all the local government entities, that tells you we're doing something right. Now, the one drawback with this is we typically let the government pay one chunk for all the sites and all the locations that fall under this umbrella. So your delivery guys are kind of running around to a bunch of different places, and then we get one bill, or we invoice once a month, and we give them a net 30. So you are kind of waiting for the money to come in later, but it's really good because your water is being seen, tasted, and people are getting exposed to your product in so many different places that when they drink this water, they go, wow, this is better than the water I'm getting. They'll look at your bottle and then they'll consider, you know, I'm going to get this water as well. So make sure you have all your permits and everything are in place. You get your fire inspection, put in your smoke detectors, your smoke alarms, put in your fire extinguishers, take care of your exits and entries. Make sure that you provide an employee restroom, an employee CR, employee lockers even as we provided so they can keep their stuff in there during their shift. So make sure your delivery vehicles, your tricycles and your trucks, if you have them, make sure that they're registered, make sure the registration's current, make sure that you have the insurance, at least the minimum insurance on all of these guys. Then you need to make sure that the actual drivers have legitimate valid licenses as well. So if you make sure everything is legally in place, you're pretty much covered from any legal standings or tax issues or employee claims or anything of this nature. So you need to really make sure you take care of this. It's an expense, and it's a yearly expense because you got to renew a lot of this stuff. It's a quarterly and a monthly expense for the accounting, but by having an accountant do all of this, you know your books are clean, you know they're legit. If you ever get audited, you can say, here's my accountant. You know, they take care of everything. We also keep very detailed records, extremely detailed, which if this video does well, I'll talk again about all the minutiae and all the small things we do to increase profit and make the business run smoother. So make sure you do that and keep it legit. Also, make sure that the commercial property you have has liability insurance against it. If you have an employee slip or fall or something happen in that nature, you want to make sure that that's covered as well. Now, you've watched all this so far, or maybe you jumped right to this point in the video, but you want to know what it costs to start a business like this. I'm going to say that without a doubt, if you don't have 1.5 million pesos to start your business, you're going to struggle. Keep in mind, I've already mentioned that you own your building, or you should. You have a free water supply, or you should. The cost of the actual equipment is going to cost more than you initially thought. You need to consider the cost of 1,000 to 2,000 pieces of bottles, right, with printed. You have to look at the cost of the tricycles for delivery. I recommend at minimum 2. I recommend you buy brand new tricycles, and I highly recommend you buy tricycles that have the push start, because if you've ever tried to kickstart a tricycle that's surrounded by a water cage for delivery, you're going to lose skin on all your ankles. So these things cost money. You know, a tricycle with sidecar is 150,000 pesos. Then you got to modify that tricycle for heavy duty use. So if you get 2 of those, you're already looking at, you know, 400,000 pesos just for the 2 delivery tricycles. The bottles are going to cost you money. You're going to need enough money in your bank account to last probably 5 months before you start turning a really good profit. And that's just taking care of the electricity, the staff payroll and salaries, the accounting fees, the registration permits, and all these processes. Don't expect to start making money right away, because you won't. So part of that 1.5 million is going to be a buffer so you can cover your day-to-day expenses. In our particular case, we provide lunch and merienda for a crew. It's a benefit that we offer. Not everyone does this, but that's a cost that's going to, you have to do every day as well. Tricycle maintenance. You'd be surprised how fast tires go out, or you need to rechange a clutch cable or brake cable or something of that nature. That's why I recommend 2. So if one breaks down, if you're not busy enough to use 2 full time, like we weren't at the beginning, but once you are busy enough, you'll need 2. But what you basically have is a reserve. So that tricycle can be quickly brought out, the water can be transferred, your customers still get the water delivered, while another person takes that tricycle off and have it serviced. These expenses kind of caught me off guard because I didn't know how much a tricycle and sidecar cost. The two tricycles cost almost as much as the actual processing equipment we bought, not counting the tanks and the water filling stations. Again, we use stainless steel for our 2 water stations. So stainless steel water filling stations are not cheap. Bottles aren't cheap. We cover our bottles in plastic, and you'll see in the picture here to the right here. We use this plastic because we want, when our products delivered to our customers, whether it's rain, shine, or not, that it's not covered in road grime and road dirt while it's being transported and delivered. So we recommend to the customers to carefully, untie the bag and reuse the bag for their personal trash if they need to. Otherwise, they can just tear it off. But what they end up with is they get a bottle of water that even externally is clean. And we're the only people that do that, and it's been something that everyone says that they really appreciate, and they really like the fact that we do that. That costs 1 peso per bag. So keep in mind, your first 5 months you're going to spend a lot of money on equipment, on delivery tricycles, on your initial stock of bottles, soaps, cleaners, water filling stations, crew salary, and things of that nature. So if you don't have at least 1.5 million to put aside for this venture, you're probably not going to do well in the long run, because you're always going to be chasing one problem while the next money comes in from the next set of the daily sales. You need to make sure that you're ahead of this, and you're going to do just fine. Can you do it for less? Probably. Would I recommend doing it for less? Absolutely not. It's just going to start you off with your business not being all it could be from day one. So, very simply, 1.5 million or greater. If you don't have that, and you don't have the other things I've talked about in this video so far, you're probably going to fail, or you're going to struggle really, really hard for a long time to make it right. A couple other things I want to mention, without going into a lot of details. Avoid trying to supply and carry water dispensers for your at-home delivery clients. It's kind of a thing in the Philippines that says, hey, if I'm a regular customer, won't you provide me with a water dispenser? I'm going to tell you no. For the main reason is you will lose money trying to keep and maintain hundreds of water dispensers. They don't treat them with respect because they don't own it. It's a constant hassle, from what I've seen, to move these in and out of new customers, or if you have customers leave and they take them with you, or if they're broken, you have to replace them. We knew that going into this business, so what we did from the very beginning is we offered a rent-to-own type of situation, where if the customer wanted, they could rent to own a brand new water dispenser from us, and we would take minimal monthly payments for a set period of time depending on the agreement, signed agreement. And then at the end of that agreement, whether they maintained us as a customer or provider of water or not, they got to keep the water dispenser. We don't have to store them, fix them, maintain them, or deliver them. That saves you a lot of time and money, I guarantee you. Another tip we do in order to protect our bottles, which are expensive, is every new customer must sign a bottle deposit form. We don't actually require a cash deposit for the bottles unless they live in an apartment. But if they're a regular residents, we have them sign and agree that they have a number of bottles that belong to us, our water station, and that if they were to terminate our contract, that they need to return for or purchase the bottles at a replacement cost for us. And this has saved us a lot of just bottles coming up missing, gone, because we do track every single delivery, every single customer, every single bottle in and out. So not having your bottles stolen or lost or whatever, without getting recompensated by the people that had them, you'll find that you'll save a lot of money there too. You're not having to replace your bottles all the time. Now we're coming up on a 3.5 to 4 year mark, and we are starting to replace some of our initial bottles that are just starting to fail. We do some maintenance. We'll replace the spigots and caps and clean. But after 4 years, they just some of them get dropped, they're broken. So keep in mind that you'll have to that as part of an expense too once you get moving along. Now for marketing, the cost that you need for marketing, what we did is we didn't print flyers, right? So we figured that's just a waste of money, and it's all going to end up in landfill anyways. So what we did is we put a couple of banners out front of our shop, announcing when we were open, what we we're doing. And then we had printed 350 ml and 500 ml PET bottles with our logo, and we filled these with our purified water product. And then we'd make cases of 24, and we went around. My wife specifically would run around and door to door or up and down the streets, or if there was a volleyball game somewhere, she'd set up a table and give away free water. So our marketing was more of a, here's our product and taste it. And that worked, right? We also got visibility out in the places where we donate a lot of water during crises, as well as we donate during election seasons. A lot of the candidates will ask us for 1,000 pieces of 500 ml purified, and we'll either greatly reduce the price or we'll donate outright if the candidate is somebody we enjoy. And that gets the water out in people's hands, and that's the best form of marketing. The money you make on the 350s and the 500 is not that much. You don't lose money, but you're not making a lot of money. But in marketing value alone, it's so much better than trying to deal with flyers and other kind of marketing things. I'm sure I'm only barely touching the surface, and as the title of the video was, is you will fail if you don't do the main things I've mentioned. And it's my honest belief that that is the truth. If you can't take care of having and owning your own lot, having a deep well and a free reliable supply of water, having the right size shop with the right size equipment, and having all your legal stuff in a row, you're probably just going to fail. The number one thing, of course, you need to have the money. If you don't have a budget of 1.5 million pesos, don't even think about getting into a water business until you do. So keep that in mind. If this video does well, or if I get a lot of questions in the comment area, I do want to talk about how to fine-tune your profit and your efficiency. Several examples would be, we added a large purified ice machine, so we also sell 3 kilo and 5 kilo bags of ice. We get customers that own small coffee shops, restaurants, walk-in customers, because it's hot, it's the Philippines. This is not the ice most Filipinos are used to, where they just chop up some big block of ice that who knows what's in it. This is actually purified ice that you can use with your drinks. So it's actually making money. Again, it's a whole additional cost and it's an add-on, but it goes back to the sizing of your shop in the first place. We had enough room in our shop that if we wanted to add a piece of equipment like this, because we thought about it, eventually when we got time to get the equipment and get it installed, it had a spot, it was all ready, and it's going so well, I'm looking at getting the second ice machine, to be honest with you, because ice is actually very profitable, almost as much as the actual water itself, and we've had great success in the last year since we've had the ice as a service, and I want to talk about a lot of these things. So hit me up in the comments, let me know. If you have questions about it, feel free to ask. If you want to know anything about running a water filling station business, believe me, after the last 3.5, almost 4 years, I've either encountered it or seen it, or I've had friends and business partners and acquaintances do the same thing. I would like to thank you if you made it all the way to this part of the video. If this is a content you like, please hit the subscribe and like button below. Thank you.